Hello, my name is Alyssa Ojeda, and I am the Marketing and Public Relations Manager for Grand Canyon Conservancy. And we are the official nonprofit partner to Grand Canyon National Park. And we work hand in hand with the Park Service to bring you educational programming and digital content to keep you connected to the canyon. And today, I'm excited to share a new interview in our series, History Behind the Arts, an in depth look at the cultural demonstration program at Grand Canyon. With that, I'd love to introduce to you today to Grace Lilly, Cultural Demonstrator Program Coordinator.
Hi, thank you for joining us today. We have the pleasure of talking with Ed Honyestewa, a Hopi Kachina carver who grew up in Mount Hopi and is joining us from his home in Second Mesa from the village of Shimopavi in Northeast Arizona. Ed has been carving kachina dolls since the age of 12, and he is multi-talented and has studied many types of art and is also a painter and a stone carver. Thank you for joining us today, Ed.
Hi, good morning. My name is Ed Honyestewa. I grew up in Lower Munkopi, just below Tuba City, little farming community, and I'm Coyote Clan and married here in Sumopovi, where we reside today. We've been here for 15 years plus, maybe, and I've been, like you said, I've been doing my craft for quite a while now.
Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of background. Can you tell us a little bit about your growing up and how you found yourself immersed in so many different art types?
Well, I grew up in Munkopi, Lower Munkopi, which is a little south of Tuba City, little farming community, and grew up with my dad. Me and my brothers spent a lot of time with him in the fields, helping in the cornfields and whatever we were growing. So in the off time, in the afternoons, we would all sit together and have tea, coffee, whatever, and he taught us how to carve the traditional Hopi dolls, which are centuries old. And that's where the whole thing started. It wasn't so much for marketing or anything. It was just to learn it on my own. And he was there to provide, the knowledge, the skills, and the techniques of how to start.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And we're going to actually have an opportunity to discuss two forms of your art today, the process of kachina doll carving as well as your stone carvings. And since you've been carving kachinas since you were 12, why don't we start with that craft? Can you tell us a little bit about the processes that it takes to make a kachina doll from start to finish, and talk about maybe any special tools or materials that you use?
Sure. Well, the first step to that whole process was going out and gathering wood, the roots of a cottonwood tree. Here's a piece of that. It's just what it looks like when it's just a raw piece. And then we go in and just a regular big, like a butcher knife. We split it down the middle for the traditional dolls, which I have one that's about just started ready to paint. This is just the shape of the wood. That split, and then it's just real simple like that. And then use kaolin for the white stuff that's on there. It's this stuff it's clay. It's just clay that we go out there and dig up out in the local area and mix it with water. Mix your own base paint, and that's what this is. This is what it looks like when it's dry. And after that, I mix my acrylic paints with that kaolin to come up with this color. This is a finished piece. That flat doll. This is a squirrel, and just real basic, real simple dolls. That's the original dolls that we started out with. Then gradually got into the full figure dolls. This is the halfway finished full figure doll that I started, and I try to go with the shape of the wood, how it's shaped, and then try to work something into it. There's no sketching, no pre-sketching, no nothing. I just dive right in there and start carving with the shape of the wood. And this particular one is Navajo grandfather. Katsina, Hopi version. That's what this one will be when I'm done with it. But this is halfway finished, and then have one that's finished. This one here, this is done. This one is a snow maiden. And I'm trying different things as I'm going along with it. So this one, it has a mounted on a walnut base. It's a piece of walnut that I stained and put on there. And this is the end product, which all the paints that I've used so far has been the acrylic paints. These little bottles that I mix sometimes with the kaolin to give it that natural look. And some of them I don't. Some of it's just straight acrylic. And it's a little bit brighter, but it's the same.
Wonderful. So as you're working with those dolls, there's probably a little bit of detail and a lot of time that you need to do to make those dolls look pristine and so smooth. So what are some of the processes besides carving that you need to go through before you paint?
I have some of my tools here that I use. It's just a regular Boy Scout whittling knife, and then some gouges like this with the little thing at the end. And then the X-Acto blades is what I use to carve in for detailing. Then after I'm done carving, then it's the sanding process starts. Just probably from anywhere from 60 grit to 320 grit is the 400 sometimes. I finish it to get a real smooth finish like this. And then so when I do that, after I'm done, then I stain it. This one is stained. Then I make my little cuts with this X-Acto knife, the lines here. And when I paint it kind of, I mix the water, the paint kind of watery. So when I touch it on there, it spreads. And then where it's cut, it'll stop where the cut is. And that's how I get these straight little lines on the face and then the whole piece of wood.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing it, because that's, a very detailed process and a lot of hard work, I'm sure. And they turned out amazing. I love the snow baiten. That's so beautiful. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about the meaning of kachina dolls to the Hopi people and how they're still used today?
Well, originally, they were teaching tools. They were used for teaching the kids what spirit it represents, or what it is. And they represent all kinds of like animals, clouds, plants, animals, the sun, stars, the galaxy and stuff. It represents all kinds of whatever's alive. That's what it represents. And so that was a teaching tool for the kids as we were growing up. That's what we were taught. And so there's a variety. There's a whole variety of different things that they represent.
That's great. Well, thank you very much for sharing that, and that it's been, part of your tradition for hundreds of years. We all need to teach our community, and what a beautiful way to do it. So I'm glad that you can still be a part of that today. Why don't we talk a little bit about your stone carving? Can you walk us through the process and the types of materials that you'll use and any special tools to create your stonework?
So from the wood, when I left home after high school, I went to art school, the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe. When I got there, I started with carving wood there. And then was exposed to all the different forms of art there, from stone to wood to painting, drawing, pottery, jewelry, whatever it was, all the mediums that they teach there. So I was exposed to all of that, and I went into the stone sculpture studio, and I saw these huge, humongous pieces of stone. And I'm asking myself, anything is possible. So, I'm going to one day try this and see what I can come up with. I didn't have any plan as far as, specifically carving, a doll in stone or anything, but it was just like, what can I do with it? So I started, getting into that. I took the class, and then the first piece that all the students that took the class, the first piece that we was required to not use any power tools, just the hand tools, like these, like hammer, chisels, files like this. And then so the very first piece that I did, that was all hand carved, no machinery. Then after that, then I saw what was possible with it as far as the different types of stone, like the marble, alabaster, soapstone, limestone, what they had on hand, because they all have different hardnesses to it. The texture of it is all different. So I started carving stone that was raw stone, we call it, which is this. This is just a piece of rock. This is alabaster from Utah. I cut one side of it to slice this part off, but this is the raw stone here. And then and you go into this part of it. This is a half finished alabaster stone. This is I think the same color as that one I have, but when you put water on there, you can see the natural color of the stone. That's what comes out. So from that stone to here, this is like halfway done. I'm carving on that to this stage, and then it goes to the then I get into here's a finished piece. This is the same stone, alabaster also, and it's of an eagle on both sides, 2 eagles. This is the natural color of the stone. So after this process, after the halfway, when I'm done with this part of it, then that's when I go into the detailing part of it, the start of it, which is, these are Riffler files from Italy. I only use the Italian stuff. This is the best you can get. So they're expensive, but they have different shapes like this here. Yeah. And then they have these ones here. And so I start filing into it in the same process with, I get so far with it and then they start sanding. I usually start at 40 grit sanding, then up to 60, and then all the way up to, sometimes up to 1600 grit, which gets this pretty smooth. So this is pretty slick. This is pretty smooth. And then when I get to that point where I know it's, when I know it's ready to color, I use stone enhancer. They use it for stone finished on floors, the color enhancer for natural stone, and that's what I put on there. So after that, then the next step is what we call frosting, this white part. That's just basically a chisel, a pointed chisel or something like this, pointed, and I just tap at it, make these little individual dents in it, and it chips away the natural color of it, and it turns white. So that's the whole. It's pretty tedious to that part of it, but that part of it is it's you have to be really careful because you just barely touch this color, the finished piece, it'll chip, it'll turn white in areas where you don't want it to be textured. It's called texturing. This is the finished piece. It's on a walnut base, and now I'm turning more to mounting them on stone pieces like marble, granite, or travertine, the bases that I'm cutting now. And that stuff, marble is harder, so it's not as much cutting as this, but it's just for the bases. That's basically the whole process.
That's pretty cool. Can you tell me what is the most challenging type of stone that you work with that can be either more brittle or just so hard it takes weeks to cut through?
I think the hardest I've tried to carve was jade. He said it wasn't very big. It was so big, but it was pretty tough. It took about 10 months maybe for a small piece like this.
Wow.
green jade, dark green jade.
That's impressive.
Then after the next piece was a piece of turquoise, natural turquoise about that big. Carving a bear out of it. It wasn't stabilized or anything. It was just really natural, all natural stone. So that was pretty tough. And was trying to cut it with this is a diamond blade that I put on the grinder. And I tried cutting with that, and this it wasn't cutting it very good. It dulled my other regular blades that I use that are for stone, but it just went through it like there was nothing. It just wore it down pretty fast.
Does
So
that mean, did you have to do it by hand?
I couldn't because it's so hard. So I bought the bigger diamond bits. I have these little these are carbide bits, little tiny ones. But there's some that have round. They have different shapes on the end of it. They're round. They're coned um, like a cone, and then some are shaped like a Christmas tree, like this one. But that's what cut it. And I never really finished that piece. And I just at the time I was doing jewelry, so I just hear you're probably going to use this the whole stone. So that's where that went. That was the end of it. That was the end of it.
Tried, right?
Yeah, yeah. But that's pretty hard.
Wow, well that's cool. Do you mind telling us a little bit about maybe one of your favorite stone carving pieces?
My favorite stone carving stone is the alabaster, because the hardness of it is between marble and soapstone. So it's pretty carvable. I mean, you can do whatever. And some pieces, a lot of my pieces, I try to do to get it to translucent to where you can see through it. This particular piece, you can see through this little area right here. You put it against the light, and you can see the veins and the natural form of the stone in that. And that's my favorite stone that I like to carve because I can do all kinds of stuff with it, different things. And that's one stone that I really stuck to mainly. That's my main carving stone right now. Yeah, this is the air hammer that I use for the bigger pieces. The more I'm trying to get into, my mission is to get to a big, maybe at least like a 12-footer at least now, and that's what I'm after. I'm chasing that stone that's in New Mexico. I haven't caught up to it yet.
Well, I heard that you are a little similar to your wife, trying to combine a little bit of art and seeing what new things you can come up with. And you mentioned that you had made a stone kachina doll and sculpted that. And do you want to tell us a little bit about that process and what it means to you?
Yeah, I have a photo of one piece here. This one here. This is that's a full figure doll out of alabaster. And I got into that as a challenge to myself to see what I could come up with as far as a doll, in stone. The wood, it's a lot easier. I mean, to get it to fine detail and stuff. But this is a challenge. So, and I've made so far maybe, I don't know, maybe about 8 to 10 pieces, the stone pieces and dolls, and they go quick. They don't hang out here too long. There was one case where I was doing a Ushari clown, similar to this one here. That piece that I'm talking about was a soapstone piece, and we were getting ready for a Christmas show here at the shop, and so I started this piece that only had this top portion, the horns, the top of it. That was the only part that was carved out at that point when a person came in, one of our buyers or people that come through came in and bought it just the way it was, just with the 2 pieces on the top. That's it. That was all that was carved out. And so I finished it for him, and he took the piece, and it's gotten attention. It's gotten a lot of attention because there's hardly anybody does that. I think maybe there's only 2 of us that have Hopi, that carved stone, that have done that. So it's a new thing, and I get a lot of comments from customers at shows and stuff that they're really amazed at it because they've never seen it. It's new. So that's the whole point of it was to challenge myself and see what I could do with it. And to this day, I have not created my masterpiece yet.
It's good to know you've got something to work towards, right?
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing your two amazing forms of art. I wanted to talk just a little bit about Grand Canyon and what it means to the Hopi people and even personally to you.
Well, for me, I get my creative energy from there. Before, it's been a while now, but I used to go there, not to the main part of the canyon where other people are, but just kind of outside of it, where I'm alone by myself. And I'd write. I wrote poems. I wrote whatever I was thinking, and trying to draw that energy from that canyon for my hands to create, and for in here to spiritual rejuvenation, I guess you could call it. That was my whole point of going there and getting this energy from there. And then I come home and I just give it a period of maybe 2 to 3 weeks. I wouldn't do any art. I just draw on that. And then when I did start, it was just like boom. I mean, it would just take off. And I just keep going. And sometimes to a point where you just burn yourself off. And then I do it all over again. That's what I get from there. And to me, it's a holy place. It's the most sacred place to me on earth, because there's a lot of things in there inside the canyon that's going on that a lot of people don't know about. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much for sharing it. So as we're talking a little bit about Hopi traditions and culture, is there anything that you would like to share with the audience that you hope people understand or know about Hopi culture?
Well, I think the whole concept, the whole idea of it is that it's a whole prayer for life, for everything, everybody, everywhere. There's nobody is excluded, nothing's excluded from it. And in Hopi, the Hopi word for that is katsi, which is life. Basically, that's what it is, and that's what we're practicing. And we're praying and doing these ceremonies for whatever's alive out there. It's not just for us here; it's for everybody.
I don't think a lot of people realize that you care about the whole world and all the people, and it's not just your culture and your bubble that you live in. It's the whole world and all the people in it that is important to Hopi people, which I think is amazing. Would you like to share a pivotal moment from your time as an artist, a moment that you'll always look back on?
It changed the whole outlook on art for me after I was hired as an intern at one of the sculpture studios in Santa Fe, and that's where those big pieces were at. And that opened my eyes to a lot more than what I was doing at the time. So now my like I said, I haven't done my masterpiece, and that's what I'm after, to get to that point where once I get it accomplished, once I get it done and it's finished, and I know that I've gotten to that point where anything else is beyond, that's whatever comes up. I think I can do that after. I know that once I complete that big piece, then anything else is possible.
And as you've been working with art for so many decades, do you have any words of wisdom that you would like to share with other artists?
My biggest thing is to share your art with everybody, whoever is drawn to it, whoever's out there that appreciates art, is to share it. And the way I learned is that I create a piece and I have it out, and people are that are being drawn to it. If they touch it, if they feel it, then I've accomplished my goal. I've reached my goal. That's what I'm trying to draw people to it, because it's all natural. It's the stone, the wood, all of it is all natural. And that's what it's not just only me, it's this piece here that's pulling them in also. But through that, I'm expressing myself in ways that some people probably won't ever understand. But that's my thing is to share our talents with those people that don't have those talents.
Thank you, Ed. I think people just admire your work, and that connection that they can make between your piece and your spirit, I think is a part of your work. So thank you so much for sharing that. I have one final question, kind of talking about the strange times that we're all dealing with. Generations before us have gone through similar ordeals though. Do you have any advice from your experiences or those who came before you on how to deal with sicknesses like the pandemic that have come into our communities, but also help them get through it?
The natural herbs and medicines that are out there, it's really abundant. There's a lot out there, and people don't know that. And so my advice on that is to learn those herbs, learn those medicines, and use it to where it's going to benefit everybody. Because in these times, everything is about money. Everything is about money. And this is available right there in front of you, and it doesn't cost a dime. Learn it and use that to heal yourself and help other people with it along the way as you're doing it for yourself, and help other people who are in the same situation or maybe in worse cases. So that's my word on trying to help everybody out there get well. And prayer is the main thing right now. To go out there, us here in Hopi, we pray to the sun. We don't do church on one day or whatever. We go out there every morning and give our thanks and our prayers for what we have, and to get people well, and for everybody to live a long, prosperous life.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Ed. I know that generations of your knowledge and your skills and your belief systems have allowed you guys to persevere through so much. So thank you for sharing that. And Ed, this is a chance for you to be able to share anything that we haven't discussed today. The floor is open to you. Would you like to share anything with the audience that we didn't discuss yet?
Well, I first wanted to thank you guys, your staff, and your people that are taking care of the canyon over there, the Grand Canyon, and for people to respect it as it should be, to where, like I said, it is a sacred place. Treat it as such. Don't go in and try to tear everything up and leave it a mess. Like other places, parks and places that we've seen happen to. Just respect that, respect one another, and you know, have a caring concept for everything that's alive around you. Whatever, don't take things for granted, because we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. We have no idea. And so, that's my take on that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Ed. That amazing thoughts. And I appreciate you keeping that word out there so that everybody can respect and enjoy Grand Canyon, as it has been a sacred place and should treat it as such. So with that, Ed, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to share your knowledge, experiences, and skills with us today. And it's an honor to have you be a part of our cultural demonstration program. And we appreciate your efforts in helping more people feel connected to Grand Canyon, its history, and its spirit. We can't wait to have you back sometime soon.
Okay.
Ed, thank you so much for sharing your story. It was really neat to learn your techniques as well as how you first learned to carve a kachina doll. So for those of you that joined us today, if you would like to learn more about the artisans in the cultural demonstration series, visit grandcanyon.org/demonstrators. That's grandcanyon.org/demonstrators. And this program is made possible with grants and support from Grand Canyon Conservancy and Art Place America. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll have a new interview being launched in our History Behind the Arts series on both Grand Canyon National Park and Grand Canyon Conservancy's Facebook pages. Until then, we hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.